Imagine one day driving the most expensive cars, hanging out with the most beautiful girls and living in the biggest mansions, and the next day not even being able to go out for a beer with the boys. Or having an amazing talent and being loved by millions around the globe, but then suddenly ruining your career forever. Yes, in today's episode, we'll look at various cases of stars who had it all but lost everything due to financial, health, or purely sporting reasons. Let's start with Paul Pogba. Yes, the French superstar is an example of how desperation can lead to disastrous results. 2016, Pogba became the world's most expensive player when he joined Man United from Juventus for over 100 million euros. By that point, he'd already established himself as a top-class talent, showing his incredible potential with the Bianconeri and even playing in the Champions League final in 2015. Subsequently, he reached new career highs, winning the World Cup in 2018. And since then, his career has been in slow and steady decline. On the verge of a move to Barcelona in 2018, Pogba is currently regarded as one of the biggest underachievers of the last generation, as he could have potentially become the greatest midfielder in the history of the Premier League. However, he has suffered some serious injuries at Man United and has even updated fans on his condition on social media, apparently under the influence of medical drug substances.
Guys, I'm making a video on Instagram.
However, his worst period came from another move from Manchester to Turin, where he put on the Juventus jersey again in 2022. Unfortunately for him, he made just 12 appearances for the Bianconeri in almost 2 years, and in early 2024, it was revealed that he had been doping, which resulted in him being banned from football for the next 4 years. And at the age of 31, it's safe to say he may have already played his last professional game. Yes, the former Man U man's story is sad and miserable, and in the next example we have two footballers who might want to avoid his case, even though we're talking about something slightly different. Sandro Tonali and Nicola Fagioli are considered two of Italian football's greatest talents, and in recent years they've been subject to one of the worst addictions, gambling. The two, together with their Italian teammate Zaniolo, were accused of betting on football matches and taking part in other forms of gambling. From the very start of the investigation, initiated by the Italian Football Federation, FIGC, it was evident that the Newcastle man Tonali was the driving force behind the affair. Thus, after being found guilty, he was sentenced to the most severe punishment, a 10-month ban out of football, which will rule him out of the upcoming Euros. When it comes to the other two, Zaniolo only received a fine, as he continues playing for Aston Villa this season. Fagioli, on the other hand, was the biggest victim of the whole case after it became clear that he has a very severe gambling addiction. And besides the fact he also received a punishment, albeit shorter than Tonali's, Fagioli was required to undergo psychotherapy. In the heat of the moment last October, Fagioli himself admitted that he was an addict and that he had debts of 3 million euros that he thought he could only pay off by continuing to bet. Fortunately, however, all three of them are still young and have the opportunity to learn from their mistakes and take the road to success. Now, let's turn the page to a pure footballing icon and one of the greatest talents in English history, Paul Gascoigne. Gazza, as he was known during his playing career, was a truly great and insanely extravagant player who, as well as scoring great goals, such as the one against Scotland at Euro 1996, loved to draw the attention with many other different things: drinking, smoking, doing drugs, and even dyeing his hair white, which was replicated by Phil Foden in 2021. Yes, during his career, he was doing some controversial stuff, but after his retirement, things got completely out of hand. For example, in 2009, his longtime wife, Cheryl Fales, published a tell-all book entitled Stronger: My Life Surviving Gaza, in which she narrated what Gascoigne inflicted on her before divorcing in 1999. He was also on the verge of bankruptcy in 2008 after failing to file tax returns for more than 2 years, resulting in him paying more than £200,000 in fines. But that's not all. In his post-career life, he's been diagnosed with various illnesses and health problems, including bipolar disorder, addiction, and self-harm. Gaza's condition, however, cannot be compared to that of another legendary footballer who passed away because of his controversial personality and addictions, the god of football, Diego Maradona. Yes, the Argentinian was arguably the most controversial figure in the game in the 80s and 90s, constantly drawing attention to both his genius and his bad habits. Of course, when we talk about controversy, we can't skip his hand of God moment in 1986 against England. In the years since the case, many players and fans have spoken out on the subject, saying that Maradona should not be proud of this moment, and that the hand of God was the biggest load of nonsense in football. However, he kept insisting that it was a great moment that helped Argentina win its second World Cup. Another memorable moment came 6 years later in 1994, when he played in Argentina's first 2 World Cup matches in the USA, but was thrown out of the tournament after doping tests revealed ephedrine in his blood. Since leading Argentina in 2010, Maradona has only been associated with negative things, including his drug addiction. Many believe that the main cause of his death was the psychotropic drugs he used to treat depression, which damaged his lungs and heart. Now, before we continue, we remind you to subscribe to our channel for more entertaining content. Also, make sure to stay till the end because we haven't even reached the player who had a bigger potential than Neymar, but his attitude ruined him. Next up, we have a legend who definitely learned how to be an amazing footballer, but no one seems to have taught him how to run his wealth. Yes, as you know, football is one of the highest paid sports in the world, and we're not even talking about the biggest players. As for the superstars, well, the money they earn during their sports careers could easily last them a lifetime, as long as they know how to manage it properly though. Over the years, there have been many examples of players going bankrupt after living too lavishly, but Ronaldinho's case was definitely a serious one. In 2019, the Brazilian had around 60 of his properties seized due to unpaid taxes. He was fined nearly $1.2 million, but he and his brother failed to pay them on time and had their passports suspended. However, as we know, Ronaldinho can't be stopped by anyone or anything, and on a trip to Paraguay in 2020, he used a fake passport. Well, unfortunately for him, he was caught by the local police and thrown in jail for a few months. He's fine now, but his story is a lesson to anyone who doesn't know how to manage their income properly. Yes, it seems the Brazilians are the bad boys of football because we have another criminal in number 7, Dani Alves. The former Barcelona star has suffered disgusting consequences after failing to control his carnal desires. Yes, you heard that right. Alves, arguably the best right back in history, was found guilty of rape in February 2024. After nearly a year in court, Alves was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison for sexually assaulting a woman in a Barcelona bar in December 2022. Alves reportedly changed his plea several times in court, but finally got what he deserved. However, about a month after the verdict, unconfirmed reports claim that his good friend Neymar came to his rescue and paid his $1 million bail. And yes, his story is certainly the definition of having it all and losing it in like 5 minutes probably. In the next 2 spots we have 2 incredible talents who didn't suffer like many of the players on the list so far, but definitely lost much of what they had at Barcelona and Chelsea respectively. First up, we have another Brazilian superstar, Neymar. The winger is a generational talent who was destined to succeed Messi and Ronaldo on the footballing throne, especially as the 2 GOATs have since moved to the USA and Saudi Arabia, where they're basically playing football for fun. He should have won at least 2 or 3 Ballon d'Ors in his career, and he had the chance to do so, but bad decisions deprived him of that honour. With his move to PSG in 2017, Neymar shattered so many dreams, his own, Barcelona's for more glorious years, and those of his millions of fans who wanted to see him holding the Ballon d'Or high in the air, as well as another Champions League and World Cup. Well, Neymar hasn't managed to win any of them, and it's safe to say he probably won't before the end of his career. When it comes to Eden Hazard, his case is similar. The Belgian was a fan favourite at Chelsea, but in 2019 he decided to take another big step in his career by joining Real Madrid. Well, fatal mistake. 4 years later, Hazard not only turned out to be arguably the worst transfer in history after 120 million was paid by Madrid, but he also decided to call it quits on his career at the age of 32. And yes, we would understand him if his case was similar to that of Harry Kane, for example, a footballer with huge potential and one of the best in the world who never manages to win a trophy. No, Hazard had it all at Chelsea and he wasn't short of trophies either, but he decided to follow his own path and failed miserably. Last but not least, we have another super talent, boy who was destined to rule the world, but due to the influence of other people, terrible work ethic and a health disorder, failed to fulfill his potential. Yes, this is Ravel Morrison. You may have heard of him, but if you haven't, well, he was hailed as the player who would bring Man United back to glory 10 years ago, even described by Sir Alex Ferguson as the most impressive Man U talent I've seen since Ryan Giggs. He began his career in the Red Devils youth ranks, but only made 3 official appearances for the club between 2010 and 2011. He then spent plenty of time in the Premier League and Championship with smaller clubs until 2015, when he was bought by Lazio at the age of 24. Having failed to impress at his previous clubs, it was felt that Italy was the place where he could finally fulfill his potential. No, he failed again. He was a huge talent with a Neymar-like style of play and the potential to be even better than the Brazilian superstar if he could just get to the top of his game. However, he was involved in several controversial incidents, including a 2010 robbery with his friends in which they threatened a 15-year-old boy and held him at knife point. He has also been diagnosed with ADHD, a condition that makes it difficult to pay attention. He couldn't concentrate on the pitch, let alone have a clear idea of how to take the next step in his career. And yes, sadly, Morrison will always remain one of the world's most untapped talents, with his last official game coming in 2021 for MLS side DC United. Now it's your turn. Comment below which other players with similar stories you can think of, who had everything thanks to the sport but lost it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, as well as checking out our last uploads. You can click them here.